Welcome, everyone. I'm Aldo Gandia. Beside me on the screen is Danny Shimon, our lead draft analyst here at the Barroom Network. This show is dedicated to spotlighting the day three acquisitions by the Chicago Bears, mainly the draft picks. We will go in depth into all of the undrafted free agents in Thursday's season finale of Draft on Tap.
So soon, man. They're so soon.
Really. Maybe we'll do some extra ones. But how are you feeling, brother? Have you been taking no dose? Because I know you've been looking at tape.
Just when you thought the draft is over with, you can kind of take a deep breath and relax. Then the undrafted free agents come in. You know, I do some more deep film study on the day three picks. But no, I have not had any rest. After the season finale on Thursday, I still can't believe we're saying season finale. But anyway, after that, I'll probably take a time to decompress a little bit. You know, I have two kids, younger kids that I kind of ignored a little bit for the past couple months. So I'm going to take some time and enjoy my kids for a little bit, and then back into it again, man. Get ready for the 2022 draft. Got to give you guys all the information about these guys coming into the preseason, and then as we roll into the next college football season, prepare you for the 2022 NFL draft.
Yeah, and before we proceed with the show, let me let people know that Niel Stopczynski could not be with us today. He and Aubrey are with family today. Aubrey's grandmother passed away a few days ago, and today are the services. And so our hearts go out to Aubrey and Neil and the entire family that's going through this, and our thoughts are with them. Neil is a real trooper. He's been sending texts, and I don't know if I can pop in. And I'm like, dude, please take care of family. Right. I know how much he wants to be here. But it's, of course, and he knows this, it's much more important to be with Aubrey and the family right now.
Right, exactly. I just talked to him as well, and we're just kind of go over some of the stuff that we're trying to talk about, preparing for Thursday's show. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously family comes first, and our best condolences, our wishes and condolences to Aubrey and her family for their loss. So yeah, got to take care of that. Don't worry about this. We'll keep the seat warm from him, and we'll attack him on Thursday in terms of some of his scouting reports on some of these players he's got.
That's right, because you guys are not in total agreement on some players. So that's going to be a good debate. And on Thursday's show, we're going to have the new executive director of the East-West Shrine Game, Eric Galko. And also Neil, to his credit, he's still working even on a day where he's going through a tough time. He lined up a special guest for us, Chris Emma from 670 to Score. He'll be with us to provide perspective of what it's like to cover the Bears during a draft and get inside information from Chris about some of the things he's heard from the folks over at Hallis Hall.
All right.
Are you ready to get started, brother?
Let's do it, man. Let's get into these draft picks here, day three picks.
All right. So I think the best way to start is by listening to Ryan Pace's thoughts on the guys that he acquired day three. So this is Ryan Pace. Beside him is Matt Nagy, but it's Pace who is providing these capsule reviews of the players selected on day three.
Starting with Larry Borum from Missouri. Just a versatile, big, powerful guy. Really transformed his body this spring when you look at it. Moves really well on tape for his size. And, he lost a lot of weight through the spring process and at his pro day. We thought he moved around really well. That gives us confidence, really, that his best football is ahead of him. He can play tackle. He can play guard. So there's some versatility with him. Next with Khalil Herbert from running back from Virginia Tech. Explosive, fast, versatile. Also provides a lot of value on special teams. That was kind of a theme for us in that area of the draft. A good kick returner. Daz Newsome, receiver, punt returner from North Carolina, extremely productive slot receiver, also a good punt returner. We spent a lot of time watching the tape on Diami Brown, and you kept noticing this player too. So, again, we're excited about his ability as a punt returner and just a lot of production in that area, along with him being a good receiver. Thomas Graham, corner nickel from Oregon. Just versatile corner. He can play outside. He can play inside. He opted out this year, but really stood out in the Senior Bowl. We really like his competitiveness, his energy, kind of the spark that he has. Really like his ball skills. And last with the Cyrus Tonga, nose tackle, defensive tackle from BYU. Just a powerful run stopper. Gives us a lot of size inside. We love his makeup. He can push the pocket. he's got a knack for batting passes down at the line of scrimmage. When you looked at our whole front board, he really led all that group in batted passes over the last 3 years. Just a natural fit with our defense with Tonga.
Danny, you've looked at tape of all of these guys. Before we go into a specific evaluation on most of these players, what is your overall feeling about the day 3 haul of Ryan Pace and Chicago Bears?
Really, I have a hit or miss feeling with these guys. I mean, Borum, I agree with Pace. He gives you that versatility in terms of an offensive lineman, thick body kid. I love the round 6 guys. All 3 guys I think were tremendous value from where they got him at. I mean, Thomas Graham coming into the season, he opted out this season, but he was one of my top corners coming into this 2020 campaign. So definitely a kid that I thought they got good value for down there in the 6th round. The 7th round, the Tonga kid, I don't see the fit. And like I said, well, we'll talk about this more on Thursday because Neil liked them a lot, and I think he liked them in the Bears scheme. I just didn't see the fit there with Tonga. I understand he's a big, big body, 2-gapping defensive tackle that can eat up blockers. But we'll get into his tape later on today. But there's times there things that disturb me on his tape in terms of him being effective at all times as a run defender as well. So I hit or miss. I love the 6th round versatility with the 5th round pick. The 7th round pick for me, I thought, a bit of a reach, but again, if he comes in, he becomes a dominant run stopper, a 2-down player. It's someone that I keep stressing that we need to get a backup, a quality backup for Eddie Goldman. If Tonga turns into that kind of a player, that at a 7th round, that's a hit for me. But just as of right now, just going off of his BYU tape, I'm kind of hot and cold on the kid.
All right, so we'll again talk more in depth on Tonga later in the show. You've isolated 6 or 7 clips, a couple of good ones and a few bad ones. Right. So we'll get your take on that, but then we'll have a little debate between you and Niel Stopczynski on Thursday regarding those 2 guys. Regarding that defensive lineman. Let's start your evaluation on the offensive tackle selected. The first pick selected on day 3, and that's Larry Borum. In this clip here that we're going to show you, this is one of the good things that Borum did in this game against the first one is against LSU. Mm-hmm. So take us through this, him turning the edge guy and sealing some room for a running back.
Right here. Yeah. Here we'll see him go ahead and turn and seal the outside edge setter right here. Turns him out, gives the running back a lane to go ahead and run behind him and get upfield for, it's 8 or 9 yards. So, and you see these positive things, positive traits with him in terms of as a run blocker and something as well and pass protection as well. You see some of the good things too. But yeah, he's got really strong hands, solid length in terms of his arm length, 33 1/8. And so he does a nice job of pressing there, controlling, steering the defender, turning him inside. The guy cannot get upfield, cannot set that edge, cannot funnel the play back inside to his bigger guys. Roundtree goes right back behind Borum's back there and up the field for 8, 9 yard gain there.
Let's take a look at it one more time and tell me about his leverage and where his butt is. Is this textbook prototypical teaching for an offensive lineman to get leverage?
Well, the one thing you want to see, you want to have him play with some forward lean, right? So he comes out of his stance, he's got his forward lean, he's got some balance, and then he puts his outside leg so we can seal off that inside guy, or that edge guy. So he does a nice job of using his hands and his body positioning there to go ahead and use his weight and his strength to go ahead and again pin the edge defender inside, not allow him to come upfield and set that hard edge, which would then make his running back go back inside towards the bigger guys. And that's something that I caught on tape with Borum that he does on quite a regular basis.
Yeah. All right. Here's another positive clip that you found from that same game. And this is Borum riding the defensive end past the quarterback.
Right. He's not going to have the elite foot quickness of some of these offensive tackles, but what he does do a good job here is he uses the momentum of the upfield rusher to go ahead and just push him up past the quarterback, right? And we've talked about as a blocker, as long as you keep yourself in between the defender and your quarterback, you're doing a good job. So here he pushes the edge defender up the field, past the quarterback, past the pocket. The quarterback can easily step up into that a vacated area by the defender, and then get off the pass and get a first down here.
And it appears there that takes great strength to do that.
Right. It takes good strength. It takes also the ability to use your momentum, your body weight to kind of carry the the edge defender using his momentum up the field. And you see a lot of that done nowadays in college football, even sometimes in the pros. You see these guys that don't have the elite foot quickness, that don't always get there to their set spots and get squared with a defensive end, use some of their their strength, and then use the momentum of the upfield rusher to just kind of push them alongside there and get them past the quarterback. Again, leaving that vacated area for the quarterback to step up to make a completion, or to possibly even use his legs to use that big area of grass to go ahead and run free and get a first down. But here the quarterback stepped up, found the crossing route, dumped the ball off, and got a first down.
All right, and this is Borum pass protecting for his quarterback.
Right. So this is the thing with these offensive linemen. I want to see them press their arms, play long, get square to the defender, keep the defender in front of them, and always maintain that body positioning, between himself and that defensive end. He does a nice job, moves his feet, again, has his arms pressed, controls the center plate of the defender, and is always square to the edge rusher. The edge rusher does not have any leverage on him, whether it's inside or the outside. So this is a solid pass set for me in terms of Borum when I go in and grade his tape. This is a positive play for me.
Excellent. One of the things that Pace said in his comments is that Borum lost a lot of weight prior to his pro day, and so I'm hoping that he hasn't lost any of his strength. Is that a concern for you at all?
Well, I mean, he had 21 reps on a bench press, which for a guy that 300 some pounds, you expect a little bit more. So we'll see how that weight loss determines here. But I mean, from the tape I'm looking at it at his plate weight. So I mean, I think at the combine he came in at 322, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to look at my notes here real quick. I don't have his weight written down here, but so we'll see. In terms of how much he weighs now, we'll see what they weigh him in come training camp. But I mean, for me, his play strength is okay. It's not an area in which I thought he got overpowered that much. There's some areas in terms of what concerned me with him is just some stiffness in his lateral agility, his movement. My concern again with him is some that I've talked with Jenkins, not as much as with Jenkins. I think Jenkins is a better athlete overall, better lateral agility. But with Borum, you see some hip stiffness, you see some lateral deficiencies. Getting to that set point quickly to be able to match speed off the edge is a bit of a concern, which is why I probably thought he might be best suited inside a guard. I know Pace mentioned that he's a possibility to play inside a guard as a guard as well at the next level. So we'll see where he comes in and competes at. But right now, for a 5th round pick, a guy that gives you some position versatility. At Missouri, Borum has played 8 games at right tackle. He's played 2 games at left guard and one game at left tackle. So he gives you some of that versatility. Where we talked about these offensive linemen on game days. You only address so many offensive linemen. So if a guy can play multiple positions along the offensive line, that's a plus for you, right? And if it's a 5th round pick, a guy can come in and give you some nice solid depth, whether it's at guard or tackle. You'll always take that in the 5th round.
All right. Well, speaking of strength, I'm going to go a little out of order here, so I hope I don't screw you up. But speaking of strength, in that same game against LSU, this is an example of him being bull rushed. Here
right. So we're going played here. The one thing with his hands, they're very inconsistent, right? So he's a guy that for offensive linemen, I want to see them go ahead and shoot their hands quickly. They got to be the first ones to initiate contact, not catch pass rushers. Here you see him; he allows the defender into his chest plate, and now the defender has him on his back heels here, and he presses him into the backfield. So this is a loss for me in terms of blocking here. Now again, it was a quick hitting play. It was a screen, not much of a gain there. But if this is a drop back play and he's just bull rushing his offensive lineman back into the quarterback, that's going to be a negative play for the offense. So again, he's got to be more consistent with his hands to be able to shoot out, protect his chest, because that's the name of the game in terms of when you go one-on-one pass rush is getting that leverage, whether it's an outside leverage to your outside shoulders or inside shoulder, or just straight up being bull rushed, bullied backwards. And that's something that he's going to have to get better at in terms of consistency with his hands. Shoot those hands first. You be the aggressor. Don't take on the defender into your chest. You shoot, you aggress, you control his plate, and then you hold up and you anchor that pass rush, and don't let that guy get away from you.
Okay. Another thing that's a bit of a concern based on the tape that you sent me and I saw is sometimes he has difficulty finding a block downfield. And we know in today's NFL is that you want yards after catch, yards after catch.
Right.
So the short passing game, you need those offensive linemen to get out there and find somebody to block. And this is an example of him not doing that.
Right. He's not a limber athlete. He's not an easy mover in space. If you see him here, he's gonna get out. Does a solid job there. But look, he doesn't reach his second level run fit in time. And even if he reaches the second level run fit, he doesn't even usually sometimes get his hands on him. So here again, we're gonna get out. This clip here, he does a decent job of getting up in front, but already by the time he gets to the second level run fit, the running backs already kind of beat him to it. So at this point, it's useless. So some would blame the running back for not kind of working off his blocker. But again, if you're the offensive lineman, your job is to get out quick out of your stance, fly upfield, get to that second level, pin or seal off that second level run linebacker, and allow your running back the vision or the time to go ahead and cut off of your blocks and then get upfield.
Yeah, here's another instance of that in another game against Georgia. Oops, wrong one. Here it is.
Once again, he doesn't know his late getting to the blocker. So the linebacker has no one really impeding him. That's Monty Rice from Georgia. If you play it again, there's no impediment there to Monty Rice getting to that running back. Take a look at this. He misses that. Rice goes all the way down, makes the tackle to the sideline. So, if he, that play didn't look like it had much a chance to be a great hitting play down the field. However, you block that backside linebacker, you never know what's going to happen. If another guy picks up his block on the other side, you can't just assume that, the play is going to end up dead anyway. You got to get to your second level run fit. You got to be able to get to him, sustain that block, and, seal or pin that guy out and make sure that guy does not get back into the play.
Another concern that you caught on tape is him not finishing blocks. We go back here to the LSU game.
Right. And one thing we talked about, Neil, I talked about consistently with our offensive linemen, we want to see mean guys that can come out and just flatten guys out there. If you play that one more time, although you see as he pulls out, there's a defender that comes up to set the edge. And you're a 300+ pound guy going up against a looks like a defensive back there. You need to bury that guy. That guy was able to slip his block and be effective in terms of slowing down the running back, right? So you come up here, you bury that guy. That guy cannot get back into the play. And here you see him, get back and touch the or scrape against the running back's legs there and help slow him down. That's what I want to see guys finish their blocks. And this right here, he doesn't do that. So, some say, he doesn't play with a mean streak. And that's what we're talking about here is just getting out there and just being vicious. You're 300+ pounds. You're going up a guy who's like 220 some pounds. You bury him. You make sure he does not get up off the ground once he hits you, or once you hit him, I should say. So that's the thing is when we say finishing blocks, playing with a mean streak, those are things I want to see on a consistent basis. There are times in his clip, you do see him finish guys off, grab, torque, and just bury him into the ground, but it's just not consistent enough. And now at that point right there, he did a solid job of getting out of his stance, looping around, being a lead blocker, but unfortunately, he just couldn't finish that block off.
Here's you mentioned torque, and here's a good example of him doing that.
He has strong hands. He's got a strong grip. You'll see him here grab Herring from Georgia and just turn him and take him inside, wash him out of the play. Mm-hmm. So Herring has no chance here. Once he gets his hands gets a hold of him, presses his arms straight up and just torques and turns him inside. Herring had no chance there. So you see some of that on his tape as well. You see the strong hands to be able to grab these guys, turn them, twist them the way he wants them to go, and he gets the leverage he has. He's got wide stance in his balance. His knees are bent. He's got good leverage, and he's got good power to be able to do this and execute those type of plays. But again, it's just more getting him to be on a consistent basis.
Right. Now here's a play where he doesn't sustain his block.
This is the first level right here. He's trying to string this block out to the side there. And I believe that's Herring, if I'm not mistaken, or is that Ojulari that goes ahead and just slips his block and then goes and drops the running back. And that's Herring actually drops the running back for a loss in the backfield. He's supposed to grab this guy and just ride him all the way out to the sidelines. Again, finish your block, sustain that block, and then that gives your running back an ability to go out and get upfield and try and make some positive yards. There, he doesn't do either of that. Herring gets back inside on his inside shoulder, slips up his block, and gets and drops the running back for a loss. So that's a negative play.
And you talked about issues that he had with his inside shoulder. Here's another example of that.
This is, I think, Ojulari. Yep, just beats him with quickness to the inside. He has no way of stopping Ojulari's speed and athletic ability there. Loses leverage right there. He's cut leading up forward there, and Ojulari beats him to the inside, gets inside, and drops the running back for a loss. And all he does, and you see a lot of that when he's beaten inside, he kind of turns and starts grabbing guys. Obviously, that's going to be a hold penalty, most of the time at the NFL level. So it's just that quickness to be able to bounce off of your snap, just explode out of your snap, or out of your stance, get into the defender. He outweighs Ojulari by almost 100 pounds. There's no way he shouldn't just, fire off his stance and bury Ojulari off the snap. Now, again, Azeez Ojulari is a hell of a player. He went in the second round to the Giants. So, you'll see some of these, wins and losses, but we see that more with his tape is you just see quickness kind of bother him on the inside. That's another reason why I think he's probably better suited to go inside at a guard position where he's got a center and a tackle kind of flanking him on either side. He's not just a lone guy there on the island and the outside. So whether it's on pass rush or run or as a run blocker, there's areas where I think he's probably best suited on the inside as a guard.
Yeah. Let's end his evaluation on a good note. Here's a clip where you really approved of his pass protection.
Right. Here he does a nice job of being able to plant his feet. Okay. Now, he again, the inconsistencies with his hands, right? He's allowed the defensive lineman into his chest, which I don't like. But what he does nice here is he plants his feet, he anchors against his pass rusher, and he's able to recover, right, and not get bullied all the way back into the quarterback, giving his quarterback some time to go ahead and get rid of that football. So there are instances there where you see some of the athletic ability and where he kind of arches his back, plants his feet, and forms that bridge we call and to anchor and not allow him to be bullied back into the quarterback. So again, it right there though, his hands were not consistent. He wasn't the aggressor again. He allowed the defender into his chest, which then allowed him to kind of get rocked back. But he does a nice job of recovering with using his feet, arching his back, and maintaining himself in between a defender and a quarterback. Again, how I judge these offensive linemen is, do you maintain that position between yourself, the defender and the quarterback? If you do, you get a plus for me. If you don't, if at any time you allow that defender that you're responsible for to stress your quarterback or make a play on your running back in the backfield, that's a negative mark for me.
So when I see a lot of fans saying, "Oh, he's going to be starting ahead of Jermaine Ifedi," I don't see that. I mean, maybe Tevin Jenkins will, but there's no way. And people are going to. I think the Bears are hoping that Jenkins can be the starter at left tackle because allowing Charles Leno to leave after June 1st saves several $1 million, and the Bears have some serious cap issues. They don't have enough money to sign any of these draftees. So, but I just don't see Jenkins being a starter at left tackle. He could potentially compete with Ifedi at right tackle. Mm-hmm. If people are thinking that the rookies are going to be the starting tackles for this team, that's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You rarely see a 5th round draft pick starting in any NFL team, no matter who he is. And based on the tape that you've shared and the analysis that you've shared, it's just not. Juan Castillo has got to work with this guy. This guy, first of all, he's got to get in better shape, right. And secondly, Juan Castillo, and Ryan Pace mentioned this in the press conference. He's just going to have to work on technique with this guy. Technique. Being a mean, nasty, glass-eating offensive lineman is not the end-all. It's about keeping your quarterback clean.
Right. Exactly. And the thing with Bourne specifically is he's got some, we touched on it right now in some of these clips here. He's got some positive things you can work with. He's got the size, he's got the strong hands, he's got the athletic ability, the feet to be able to maintain himself in terms of mirroring off the line of scrimmage. He doesn't have the elite agility to be able to, offset speed rushers off the end, but he has some technique things that he can probably work on, Castillo that is, to get this kid to be, a quality offensive lineman. Now, to kind of put them out there, right away, week 1 or whatever this season as a starter, that's for me a little bit far-fetched, especially with this guy. I see this guy right now as a nice lump of clay that you give Juan Castillo, be like, all right, you have some things here to work with, right? You got the size, you got some athletic ability, position versatility. Let's make him into a quality offensive lineman first, right? And then we'll go from there. If he's, like I said, if he's a 5th round pick, becoming a quality backup at multiple positions, that's a hit. That's a good pick for me, in my opinion. So let's go work on there. Let's get that set up first, and then we'll kind of go ahead and see where this kid goes ahead and develops, as his career progresses. However, going back to the Jenkins thing, we talked about it the other night, right? For me, Jenkins, he's got more lateral agility, more quickness, and more athletic ability than Borum. And I think he's going to be a guy that eventually will supplant Ifedi at right tackle. But I'm telling you, in terms of this kid, I just don't see him playing Jenkins. That is, I don't see him playing left tackle in the NFL. I have a hard time envisioning it. If it happens, great. That's something that I did not see happening. I just can't project him at the left tackle. At right tackle, sure, I can see this kid coming in and competing with Ifedi at right tackle, and then eventually becoming a starter, and then that'll be your week one or day one starter, if you will. But just I know the Bears keep saying he's going to have a chance to compete at left tackle. I'm sure he'll see some snaps there, but I think once he sees the snaps there, I think they'll all come to the realization that this kid is going to be a right tackle in the future.
The Chauvin says Leno was a 7th rounder. What do you mean a 5th rounder won't start? You're missing my point there. Charles Leno started one game in his rookie season, and that was because of injury. It was a forced start. And saying, Chauvin, you probably are not a big fan of Charles Leno to begin with. So I'm not sure that's a great example to put out there. It's just going to take time for this guy. Like I put up Chicago Hair Bear. It says fans have to be patient. These are prospects to be developed. That is absolutely true. Right. It is, I'm not saying day 3 guys rarely start or, pace is hit on some day 3 guys. And hopefully he's hit again on all of these guys that were selected. But based on tape that Danny has shared with me and what I'm hearing him saying, it's going to take a little while to develop these guys, and hopefully they're fast developers. But let's pump the brakes a little bit on these day 3 guys.
Yeah, we're not saying that Borum has no ability to start in the NFL. I'm just saying that it's going to take time to develop him. Castillo's going to have to coach him up, right? So we've already touched on some of the positives he's got. There's a lot of things some negatives as well. Making him into a nasty a finisher that might not ever happen, because either you have it or you don't have it in terms of that mean streak inside you. However, there are times on tape you do see him finishing some blocks off. So maybe it's something in there that Juan Castillo can go ahead and tap into. But more importantly, it's got to work on his technique. He's got to work on his ability to get out of his stance quickly at the snap and get into the defender, and not let the defender get into his chest and kind of control him and dictate where he's going to go. He's got to fire off. He knows where the ball is going to go. He knows whether it's a run play or a pass play. Borum, that is. He's got to fire off the line and know what he got to have a plan in terms of what he's going to do to execute his assignment versus that defender. And that's where sometimes you don't see him being aggressive like that. You see the defender taking it to him when a defender is kind of reading and reacting as to what's happening on offense.
Gregory asks, can we see some plays against Alabama? He allowed 0 sacks, 0 hits, and 0 hurries. Did you get a chance to see any of the tape against Bama?
I did watch Alabama. I didn't get a chance to get any of the plays out there. He really didn't stick out in terms of negative or positive for me. There's a lot of plays with Alabama. He was going up against guys there were like more so defensive, 5 techniques, not speed guys. So I wanted to show him because against those guys he does very well. So that's why I like him at guard, because those are not the fast, the twitchy, the quick first step guys, the bigger guys, the 5 techniques, the interior defensive lineman. So that's why I see him really nicely in terms of developing as a guard inside. But I wanted to show some tapes against him going up against the Azeez Ojularis, the kid from LSU. These are the more faster, the more twitchier guys on the outside, because those are the kind of guys you're going to see in the NFL. Most likely you're going to see guys on the edge with speed and first step upfield quickness, and that's why I highlighted him versus these guys.
A lot of reaction. I mean, people are getting pissed off. It's because you're saying Tevin Jenkins is not going to be playing left tackle. People like Alex Sims says, I'd rather have Jenkins start over Leno every day of the week. I don't know how you can say that. You haven't seen him play a snap of NFL football. You have not seen him go up against that level of competition. And Alex, tell me, have you studied the tape when he's played left tackle, and walked away feeling assured, yeah, he's definitely a left tackle. Every report that I have seen says that left tackle will be a challenge for him, first of all, because of the length of his arms. So that's typically a concern. I think Greg Gabriel will be the first to say that. He doesn't have the arm length to play that position. So I think, the whole Tevin Jenkins thing, I'm not saying he's going to be a bad player. This guy had a first round grade from a lot of scouts, but he's much more likely to be the right tackle of this team for the near and distant future. And Charles Leno, a lot of people are talking about releasing Charles Leno. It would be nice to get that $9 million in cap savings. But I don't know if that's going to happen, man. I just don't see it.
The Oklahoma State took him from left tackle and moved him to right tackle for a reason, because he wasn't able to hold up at left tackle for them at college, on a college level. So that's another reason why. And every scout, I talked to in this pre-scout process, kind of get a feel. Some of these offensive linemen, is Jenkins was always mentioned as a right tackle or a guard prospect. He was never mentioned as a left tackle guy. He has that versatility. So I know the pace. I think Pace and the Bears are driving this. I'm not sure why they keep driving this. I don't know if they're trying to put pressure on Leno or whatnot, but I'm sure they're going to try him, and I'm sure you guys are going to have a chance to see him play left tackle in the preseason, and you guys can go ahead and then be a judge from there. But according to my evaluation, I think Neil feels the same way, and everyone I've talked to says this guy is a right tackle, potential guy who can start day one on right tackle, but left tackle is going to be a little bit of a concern for him. However, the whole thing with arm length, he has 33 and 1/8 arms. I believe it was the measurement. Correct. So for me, if it's 32 or if it's 33, less than 33 inches, then for me, it typically is going to be a guard, right? But he's got a little bit over 33 inches, so I think he could probably give him a shot and let him play. So the arm length isn't something that's going to be that detrimental in terms of my evaluation. Is just the overall ability to handle speed off the edge, especially at left tackle, is where I kind of get concerned with him, though. But that's why I kind of see him better off on the right side or at guard eventually.
Chauvin says that Greg Gabriel also mentioned that he thought something went wrong with arm measurements this year because so many guys had shorter arms, and I've spoken with Greg about that topic, and Greg says that there are very few people who do arm measurements for the NFL who do it correctly.
Right.
Because there was no combine and we didn't have a uniform measuring system for people's arms, that arm measurements this year have to be taken with a grain of salt. It's different people doing it at different pro days and so forth. And while they were all taught to do it a certain way, right, it's still the actual execution of it can vary a quarter of an inch, maybe sometimes even a half of an inch. This is what Greg told me. And so we have to be careful with relying on measurements this year.
We see it all the time in normal years, right? We see it at the Senior Bowl. They get measured in front of us. We watch the measurements in front of us, and they come up, and those are scouts that are actually doing the measurements at the Senior Bowl, and they get a measurement, and then they go to the combine, and we have a whole different measurement, whether it's longer, shorter, or whatnot. We know the arms didn't grow from the Senior Bowl to the combine. It's just that the person taking the measurement are different. So the way they're measuring it is different. So that's the thing. We've seen that as well. A lot of times the NFL combine is what's used overall in terms of getting the overall, the final number. But we see it all the time every year. Mm-hmm. But the one thing that you want to just keep stressing with these guys is whether it's Jenkins, whether it's Borum, to just come in and say, all right, this guy's going to start from day one. Yeah, Jermaine Ofedi is not a guy I want to see blocking for Justin Fields at right tackle, but also he's a veteran, right? He's a guy that's been through the wars and kind of at the tail end of last season, had a solid, if I want to say that's even a good way to say it, solid, tail end of the season, and showed up more respectable as a right tackle than a right guard. So, Jenkins, even to beat up Fetty, is going to have to come in and prove that he's worthy of starting at right tackle. So, we'll see how it goes. But, definitely, like for me, I keep going back to our previous shows, but Liam Eichenberg was available. He was picked 2 picks after Jenkins, I believe, I think 41 by the Dolphins. And yeah, his arms are actually shorter than Jenkins. And I think he's a tad bit taller than Jenkins. However, his technique at Notre Dame is spot on. So I think him as a technician coming in, I would have put him plug and play right away at right tackle. Would have no problems with him playing right tackle because of his technique, and because I know how well he's coached at Notre Dame. So I think that's less of an issue for me for a kid like Liam Eichenberg, even though he has shorter arms than Jenkins. So it's just a matter of taking what you have now, the physical ability, that the skill set that Jenkins has, and getting him coached up to be able to start as a right tackle. Just to say he's going to come in and start right away because he's a 39th overall, selected kid, doesn't work that way.
Right. And, and this is every scout, Danny knows this more than everyone. This is all about projection. You look at the tape and then you project what's going to happen. Ultimately, the test is going to be what they see on the practice field. And it's the same thing with Justin Fields. Right now they've got a plan in place and it's a slow developmental, sort of like they did with Patrick Mahomes. But if Justin Fields goes out there in the first practice and he's out playing Andy Dalton, then fuck that plan. That's my language. And it's the same thing with Jenkins. If Jenkins is playing better than Charles Leno, and I know a lot of people are automatically going to say yes because they got this thing about Charles Leno. I don't think Charles Leno is as bad as Alex Sims and some other people make him out to be. Charles Leno is probably around 15 to 20 in terms of left tackles in the NFL. There are at least 10 left tackles in the NFL who are worse than Charles Leno. The Charles Leno of 2018 and the Charles Leno of 2020. The 2019 Charles Leno, he was pretty bad. Again, this is all about what we're talking about here is you look at tape and you make projections and you make informed decisions. And so hopefully, what we see in the practice field is going to convince people that this is the greatest rookie class of all time. And I'm talking about the day 3 players in particular.
Right. And that projection is based off of what I'm seeing off of college tape, right? They haven't even got into the NFL, weight adding program, strength and conditioning program. They haven't gotten, Juan Castillo hasn't got his hands on this kid yet in terms of coaching him up. So there's always a possibility this kid could get better and stronger and much more technically refined at the next level. So that's where you see these jumps from these kids from college to the next level is when these guys get in there in the NFL and they get coached up and they get stronger and more athletic.
Yep. Mr. Englewood is asking Danny about Daz Newsome. Do you want to talk about Daz now?
Yeah, I mean, I just to go off the 6th round pick, I love the entire 6th round. All 3 picks are guys that I had higher grades on than where they were picked. So I think they got tremendous value on all 3 of these guys. Let me just find my notes for Daz Newsome over here real quick.
Sure. And while please go ahead.
So I mean, I've been harping on getting guys like this, right? Quick twitch, fast hitting, playmakers that just get the ball in their hands, just let them do their thing and be dynamite on the playing field. And this is something the Bears have always lacked, I feel like, for the last couple of seasons. So even when Taylor Gabriel was here, he was more of a field stretching guy. He was not really a guy that can juke, make guys miss in the open field a lot. Oh, he had some moments there, but he was more a guy that can stretch the field vertically. With Daz Newsome, he's a guy that you put on that North Carolina tape, and a lot of times you're watching the other guy, Brown, the receiver that was taken by the Redskins, but Newsome's always making plays. And the thing about this kid is, in high school he was a cornerback prospect, one of the top cornerback prospects coming out. He played corner, safety, receiver, running back, and as a punt returner in high school. Ended up going to North Carolina as a receiver. He was a 2-year starter. In 2019 was a second team all ACC, led the team with 72 receptions, averaging 84.8 yards receiving per game. Had 6 touchdowns of 20 plus yards or more. So again, brings you that deep, big play potential. This past season was a 2020 all ACC honorable mention, and he led the ACC in punt return average. So he gives you almost 10 yards a punt return. So he's got that experience as well. So put on his tape. This kid is a slot receiver all day, athletic and flexible. This is a guy he's quick out of his gate. He can accelerate instantly off the line of scrimmage. He has that stop-start, change of direction ability. Super competitive. This kid will not back down from anybody. Has no fear going over the middle. His yards after the catch are very impressive. He's got the speed, the burst, the acceleration to be able to run away from defenders. When he hits, you hit him on the run in stride. Very, very rarely was ever caught from behind. Body control, it burst and acceleration, along with quick feet, allow him to go ahead and get in and out of his routes real quickly in terms of being a route runner and being able to cause some separation as a route runner. Sinks his hips, separates easily on those whip and jerk routes. Those are those 5 to 6 yard routes where you see the the receiver stop and kind of change direction real quick. Does a real good job of creating separation on those quick hitting plays as well. For me, this is just an offensive weapon. This is a guy who just get the ball in his hands. I've been talking about this for how many times now? Slip screens, jet motion handoffs, bubble screens, get the ball, a quick hitting play, get the ball in this kid's hands, let him do his thing. He's got the body control. He's got the contact balance and the speed to go ahead and just bounce off of defenders, break tackles, and get into the upfield, get into the end zone. Put on his game against Boston College. You see his ability to break tackles, and against Miami, same thing, breaking tackles, getting upfield, getting into the end zone for touchdowns, and then the added value of special teams. We touched on a little bit on the cap situation with the Bears, right? And making, I think right now they only have about 400,000 available. Don't even have enough to sign the rookie class. So we're talking about maybe cutting some veterans. With the addition of this kid as a punt returner, with the addition of Khalil Herbert as a kickoff returner, that to me puts some question to Tariq Cohen's situation on this roster. Now, I know he just signed a contract extension last year. I don't know what the terms are in terms of his cap hit and all that stuff, but if you make him a post, June 2nd cut, I wonder how much they save off of that contract as well, because, this kid, along with the Herbert kid, I think give them an ability to kind of move on from Tariq Cohen if they want to.
You know what? That's funny because my co-host on Dan and Aldo Bear Their Souls, he was questioning, why Herbert and why Newsome and so forth. And I responded back, I think Tariq Cohen is concerned, or the Bears are concerned about his ACL, that he may not be recovering. And in fact, Tariq Cohen has a couple of times on social media kind of tweeted out his frustration, sent out messages expressing his frustration with the whole rehab process. It's not fun, and maybe it's going well, but and it's just frustrating him. But it's an ACL injury that was suffered, I think, late in September, early October, and a lot of times those things can be 12 months before you back on to the field at full strength, and sometimes longer, right?
Yeah, that depends. Everyone's different. Obviously, the Adrian Peterson, touched by the hand of God, healing process doesn't always happen to everybody. I think AP came back in 6-7 months or something like that, something ridiculous, and looked like he was never hurt at all. But this typically is a year long process in terms of recovery and rehab and all that stuff. And then still, even after a year after that is when you're not fully back to being 100%. So, this could be something like, Tariq Cohen is a dynamic player in terms of getting the ball in his hands. I think he's a damn good pass catcher out of the backfield, but I've always questioned his run vision, his instincts as a runner. And so you put him in like a guy like Herbert, you replace him with a guy like Herbert. You already got Damian Williams as a veteran backup. That's why I totally had Herbert off my list, because I figured, with Damian Williams, I don't think they're going to draft a running back. Exactly. So when he took Herbert, I'm like, that's great value, and that's a hell of a player. I absolutely love this kid off of his tape. We can get into him later on, but I just what he gives you in terms of passing game, kickoff return, as a runner, his vision, his feel, and all that stuff. Absolutely love this kid. I think he would be an upgrade over Tariq Cohen. He won't give you the deep speed of a great Tariq Cohen, the big play potential possibly, but gives you a better runner, and also gives you a guy that does it solid out of the backfield in terms of catching passes too.
We got great activity going on in the chat room. Thank you all for popping in. Here's an example of a great question. Is Newsome going to be our Albert Wilson? I think that on the surface could be a really good comp. What do you think?
That's a good comp. I mean, he's a slot receiver for me. He's a guy that won't be lined up on the outside. You take advantage of his quickness. Like I said, those quick hitting plays. But honestly, guys, I think this guy has big play potential than Albert Wilson. For me, Daz Newsome does. When I put on his tape, I marked him down for a day 3 guy. I had him going in the fourth round. That's how much I like this kid. The only reason why I had him going that low, he's not that big, right? I think he only comes in at 5'10", 185. Ran a 4.47 40, I believe, at his combine. He looks faster on tape. Or at his pro day, I should say. He really looks faster on tape. So he looks to me like a more 4.4 old guy, maybe a low high 4.3 guy. So it's a guy that when the bullets are flying, if you will, he's faster in pads on football field than he probably is as when you time him, on with a stopwatch. So just that big play, elusive ability. Again, he's going to be a guy in the slot, give you that big play potential. But yeah, I think he's got bigger play potential than Albert Wilson does.
Chauvin asked a question, and I wish the Chauvin would have a little accent over the A, so I can say the Chauvin. Anyway, he says, "Are you guys disappointed that we only picked up one receiver? I was hoping for one up in the second or third round too." Yeah, I mean, Alex Sims, I think earlier when the show started, saying that that he agreed with you about trading that third round pick, but at the same time, he was happy moving up for Tevin Jenkins. I wish we would have had another receiver with this great class of receivers.
Right. And the other thing was there are some receivers that I had some high grades on that didn't go drafted. Kate Johnson and Tamarian Terry from Florida State. We talked about those guys being possibly day 3 guys. Those went undrafted, and I think they both, if I'm not mistaken, I think both ended up in Seattle. Right. So those are guys give you some big play potential as well. Kate Johnson was a slot guy. Really impressive at the Senior Bowl, and Terry is a big body, guy who ran a 4.44 40, was very productive at Florida State as well. So, I would have wanted to see some more receivers as well. So we'll interested to see what happens here.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the question. Somebody asked, I know you guys weren't at the Senior Bowl. Well, why do you think Kay Johnson wasn't drafted? It's a great.
The only thing is, he ran a 4.51, 4.54 40, depending on which report you believe. So that doesn't have that much deep speed, but he's more of a quicker, shiftier, faster than quicker than fast kind of receiver, and I think he would make a nice living in the slot. And I'm not sure if there's anything else off the field that I'm not privy to in terms of why he went undrafted, but that was a surprise that he went undrafted for sure.
Yeah. A lot of great questions. Some of these we'll get back to. I want to continue to talk about these 6th-round selections that Danny was focusing on. Who is the next guy on that list of guys you want to profile?
Well, the other guy that we can take a look at is Khalil Herbert, is the running back. And like I said, he's a guy that I kind of got into here, but didn't really break him down that much. But when I was going through my top 10 running backs, I was close to putting this guy in my top 10, probably right there at number 10. I think I may mention him in that show. I'm saying this is a guy that I'm really, really intrigued by. I really love his tape. First of all, some of his history. He's only a 1-year starter at Virginia Tech. He was at Kansas, where he competed with Puka Williams, who ended up being drafted, I believe, by the Cincinnati Bengals in this draft as well. So ended up transferring from there, going to Virginia, starting his first year as a starter. And just lit it up. Had over almost 1,200 yards rushing, averaged 7.6 yards a carry, 8 touchdowns. Again, another guy with special teams ability, right? Kickoff returns, 16 kickoff returns, 430 yards, averaging almost 27 yards a kickoff return. All about this guy: 5'9", 210, compact frame, well proportioned, quick feet, solid play speed, contact balance, and power to run through arm tackles. He's got that short area burst and acceleration through the line of scrimmage. This guy can work zigzag through traffic with quick feet vision and balance. Runs with a low center of gravity, superb lower body power, sinks his hips, and is able to just kind of cruise right through traffic. Again, his good vision, where it can pick and slide, weave through congestion, makes NFL quality runs. Again, put on his Boston College tape, put on his North Carolina tape. You see this guy just bursting through the line of scrimmage, getting upfield, big chunks at a time. Battles and scraps for every extra yard, does not go down easily. And again, that special teams ability, really like the guy, can give you some bursts. And special teams, you lost Cordero Patterson. There is a need there for a kickoff returner, and this guy can fulfill some of that as well. Now, in terms of pass catcher, only had 10 receptions this past season for 179 yards and 1 touchdown. He was more used out of like in screens and all that stuff. But I think when we saw them down at the Senior Bowl, he was down there as well. He ran some routes, and he looked like he's a natural pass catcher with natural hands. So I think that's an area of the game that can probably develop as he gets into the NFL. But definitely a guy that really, when they drafted him, like I said, I had him off my radar because I figured with Damian Williams being signed, they're not going to go and draft a running back. But they ended up, it must have been the value of the player must have been way higher than where they got him at. And I felt it was a great value, as did the Bears did as well. And that's just a great value pick for them in that 6th round.
Gregory Dykes is still on the arm length thing, and so I just want to say quickly to respond to this. Joe Thomas had 32-inch length arms. He should be a guard, I guess. Well, there are exceptions to everything. There are a dozen or more tackles in the NFL Hall of Fame who have shorter arms than what scouts typically like. So I'm not, we're not at all saying that it's a, written in blood and stone or whatever. There are definitely exceptions. And and I hate to switch back off the topic that you were on, Danny, but what Greg has told me regarding guys with shorter arms at the tackle position, that they have to have extraordinary feet to compensate for the arm length.
Feet and technique as well.
Feet
and technique as well. So Liam Eichenberg, the kid from Notre Dame, he's got less than 33 inches arm. That's below my threshold, but I would start him at right tackle day one because his technique and his feet to be able to get to that set point, cut off the edge of the edge rusher or cut off the angle of the edge rusher to the quarterback is something that you watch his tape. He's a technician, right? Mm-hmm. Jenkins, again, we keep going back to this kid because, and this kid, hopefully he's a starter and I would be nothing but happy to have him as a starter. I'm just saying that his technique is not there yet. And for me, I see him as a right tackle, but anyway, it's not, I'm not saying he's going to be a guard per se, but I'm saying for me, he's a right tackle, possibly a guard, right? If he doesn't make it as right tackle, he's going to, you push him inside, you make him a guard. With Jenkins, his technique is all over the place. We broke it down his tape last show. He's got to get better there. Right, he's got to get more consistent there. Yeah, does he have the mean streak you like? Yes. Does he have the athletic ability to be able to slide and shuffle? Yes. But is he consistent on down in and down out, pass blocking and run blocking? No, he's not. So that's why he's a guy that's going to have to come in and earn that starting spot and be coached up. It's not a knock on Tevin Jenkins. My disapproval with that pick was more so, you gave up a 3rd round pick for a guy that may have dropped to you. He may have not been. That's fine. But I like guys like Liam Eichenberg a little bit better than Jenkins as well. So those are my disapproval of the pick there. I would have not liked the pick in the 1st round. That's would have been, for me, that would have been bad value. But you got him on the 2nd day, which is where I graded him at as a 2nd day player. Is just giving up that 3rd round pick really hurt, especially since we talked about here. We want another receiver. We didn't even attack the inside linebacker position as well. So, these are some spots, some areas where I felt like there's some players you could probably, if you did move up, could have been better value for you if you moved up to go ahead and get than Jenkins. But again, the kid could turn into a starter, and that's all the Bears care about. If he's a starter at right tackle for the next 10 years, hey, that's a great pick for them.
All right, so here's what I'm asking everybody in the chat. You can post whatever you want, of course. But in terms of our conversation here, we're going to continue, and I'm going to tease you on Thursday at 8 p.m. Central. Besides having 2 outstanding guests on the show, Chris Emma of the Score Sports Radio is scheduled to join us, and also Eric Galco of the new executive director of the East-West Shrine Game. So we'll talk about his thoughts on the draft and also get his thoughts about some of the players for next year's draft. But we'll also talk about this topic of offensive linemen, and we'll have with us Niel Stopczynski so that Danny and Neil can have a discussion about that and about some of the other things that they don't necessarily agree on. All right, moving on. The other 6th round draft pick that you like is the cornerback from Oregon, Thomas Graham Jr. Tell us.
Yeah. Thomas Graham opted out last season. Coming into last season, he was a guy that I was looking highly on in terms of some of my cornerbacks to look at. 4-star high school recruit, originally committed to USC before flipping to Oregon. 5'10", 192 pounds, 3-year starter, 40 games, started as a freshman, really durable, started 39 consecutive games before he opted out last season. This kid is a ball hog, guys. 40 passes defense, 8 interceptions, led the Pac-12 with 21 pass defense in 2018. The thing about this guy is, again, outstanding ball skills and hands, plays the ball naturally with good body control and balance to go ahead and adjust to those throwing balls. Good eyes and anticipation to sort out routes in zone coverage, reads the quarterback, and he drives on the ball. Reads routes and stays in the hip pocket of a receiver on go routes down the sideline. So he has that 4.48 speed to keep in phase with the receiver on those go routes down the sidelines. Solid tackler, will wrap up in the open field. Extremely competitive, and again, really durable kid. Now, some might say, why did this kid drop to the 6th round? Like I said, I had a 4th, 5th round value on him, depending on what he, how he tested and all that stuff. He came in opted out. I think there were a lot of questions in terms of some of his height, right? He lacks ideal height. He's 5'10", 192, only had a 34 and a half vertical. A bit of an upright in his back pedal, limited recovery speed. I think that's where it hurts him, right? He's not as twitchy as you want for some of these shorter corners, right? So if you're going put him in a slot, you want to be able to compete better with these quick, quicker than fast slot receivers. So I think that's where he's going to have to come in and kind of prove that he can maintain, and stay in phase with these slot receivers. I think that's where he's going to probably put it initially. Now at 5'10", 192, does have almost a 35-inch vertical, so you might be able to compete with the outside guys. But if you have a receiver at 6'1", 6'2", that can outjump him and outreach him in terms of arm length, it might be hard for him to compete there on the outside. So I think his most likely he's going to be pushed inside to corner to slot corner, at least tried out at slot corner, and see how he competes. But talk about the ball skills, talk about competitiveness, talk about a guy that's gonna come in and tackle and play hard. For me, he's an ideal slot corner temperament, mentality, and toughness and all that stuff. It's just a matter of, can he keep in phase with these quicker twitch inside receivers?
Danny, I'm told people are hearing an echo, so let's take a little commercial break, and maybe you can go out and then come back into the room, and maybe that'll get rid of the echo. So we'll be right back after some messages. We've got a lot more player evaluation going on, but let's play a few ads, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Hey everyone, this is Chuck Arfine, the South Burbs Hitmen. This show rocks, and you need to listen to it every single time the podcast drops.
That's right. Our swag shop is open for business. Go to Deep Dish Tees, TEES.com, and you can hit the / bar room. It'll get you straight to our page. But I suggest you just go to Deep Dish Tees and take a look at all the other great products that they have there. And then if you want to buy some Draft on Tap t-shirts, look at that logo. Look at behind Danny. Look at that cool logo you could be wearing on your hat or on your t-shirt. And that way we can also support Danny and all the hard work he and Neil do to provide you this information. All right. Where were we? We're talking 6th-round draft picks. So let's test your audio too.
Thomas Graham, cornerback from Oregon. It's a guy, like I said, coming into the season, he opted out. I had him as a potential high end up draft pick there. So I ended up going in the 6th round, lower than I anticipated. But again, he doesn't have the elite, lateral twitchiness that they want to see in these corners. His size kind of tends you to believe that he's going to be kicked inside to a slot corner position, and that's where he's going to have to deal with these, quick twitch, quicker than fast slot receivers. So he's going to be able to show he's going to be able to stay in phase with them. However, you also have to be a good tackler, which he is. You have to be tough and competitive. I think see him coming off of that slot corner as a blitzer, I think will be a nice thing to see as well. So, this guy's got a lot of potential. I think I heard the call for him and Matt Nagy, and obviously he was really excited to be coming to the Bears and be drafted by the Bears. So I wouldn't entirely rule out him playing on the outside, but most likely with this size limitation, he's probably going to be kicked inside as a slot corner.
you sent me this clip of him. Take us through it.
Yeah, here you just see him playing off-man coverage on the outside here. And what I want to show you here, his ability to go ahead and break quickly on a football and then make a play on a ball. Right there, just cuts that route, jumps that route, and shows his abilities, his hands, his body control to go ahead and anticipate and then jump that route and make the catch. So this kid's been a ball hawk his entire career at Oregon. Like I said, 3-year started as a freshman, missed that first game, and then ended up, didn't start the first game, and then ended up starting 39 consecutive games the rest of his career at Oregon. So durable, intense, competitive. Those are the kind of guys I like seeing, especially as a 6th-round pick. I think is a tremendous value. A guy that can come in and probably compete right away with the guys of Shelley or Vildor if he's going to be moved inside the slot. So if not, especially going to be a guy probably on special teams, kind of give you something on special teams as well. So tough. Again, I keep saying this over and over again. Tough and competitive. I like seeing those in those undersized cornerbacks. Won't back down from anybody. Is a solid wrap-up tackler in the open field. So those are all the kind of criteria I look for my inside slot cornerbacks.
I'm going to show that clip again, and at the beginning of the clip, you'll see him under a circle, and watch how he is communicating with his defensive backs, which could be a clue that he's a leader back there. Watch him. He's making sure everyone's in line. He probably may have even recognized the play, just kind of a pre-snap read, and then just knew he was going to back off. He tempted Bo Nix to go ahead and throw that ball to the receiver who thought he was open, and he just used his ability to go ahead and just transition out of his drop back and click his heels and come downhill and just jump that route, and make the play. Nice clean interception there. He may have been making an adjustment, as you see. I think it's the safety go back into the center field area. Watch him. Up at the top, number 25 just goes up into maybe Newsom was making that call.
Could have been done that. Yeah, he could have done that as well. You mean Graham? You said
Graham.
Newsom.
Excuse me.
Yeah. He went ahead and could have adjusted it. Could have recognized something. There could have been something that he read, a key that he keyed on, and then just kind of told the safety to drop back, and then he ended up going and making that big time play there.
Mm-hmm. Graham and Vildor play bigger than their size on the outside. That's what AC Adam says, and I agree. Right?
Yeah.
You're a big proponent of Vildor. These two guys could be cornerbacks for the Chicago Bears for the next several years.
Right, Vildor. I'm a big fan of his kid. I mean, he's a little more quicker and twitchier than Graham, I want to say. But definitely with Graham at 5'10", 192, doesn't back down from anybody. Has that 35-inch vertical, so he could probably compete out there with some of the outside receivers. However, you just think of the bigger guys, right? The Julio Jones, some of the bigger receivers. Going up and just catching balls over his head is where I see him maybe being a little bit, deficient in that area. But I wouldn't mind seeing him get out there and get some reps out there as an outside corner. But I think eventually, probably might be best suited inside. But I'm not giving up hope in terms of seeing him play outside.
All right, let's get over to Chris Tonga, the kid from BYU. You're not as high on him as probably Ryan Pace and definitely Niel Stopczynski is.
Yeah.
And those, to be fair to Neil, we're going to have a thorough discussion about Tonga on Thursday's show. But you've picked out some really good clips on Tonga, but also some real things that also raise an eyebrow.
Yeah, before we go into the clips, I just want to kind of go over my concerns with Tonga. Now, in terms of what he is, he's a run stuffing, big body, 2-gapping defensive tackle. He's going to be a backup nose tackle to Eddie Goldman. I've been pounding the table here for 2 years now. That's an area of need in which they need to go out and need to solidify a backup for Eddie Goldman. This year they went out and they got John Jenkins, and he kind of filled in a little bit there. They moved Bilal Nichols over there for a little bit, but anyway, this is a position that I think was a dire need for the last 2 seasons that they need to address in the draft, and they finally addressed it. Now, unfortunately, with Tonga, he's a guy that I just don't see the fit here with the Bears, right? So with Eddie Goldman, you want a guy that's going to be, or similar to Eddie Goldman, you want a guy that's going to be, stout against the run, but also gives you something in terms of an upfield pass rush, a guy that could, when let loose, when allowed to go ahead and go up, hit a gap and go upfield, can give you something, in terms of, providing some pressure on the quarterback. So, with Tonga, I know Neil is very, very high on Tonga. He had him in his top 10 in terms of prospects for the Bears, but with him, the one thing, first of all, his positives is his size, 6'2", 325. This kid is an athletic kid, played, tight end and defensive end in high school, along with also a rugby player too. Initially signed with Utah, but then after returning from his mission, he ended up flipping to his commitment to BYU. Team captain in 2020, a 3-year starter. So he's an experienced leader type on the defensive front. Big size, thickly portioned, space-eating defensive tackle. Can occupy blockers, allow the linebackers to go ahead and roam free from to the ball carrier, which is what you want up front with the Bears system. Brute force as a tackler. I mean, when he tackles running backs, he lets them feel it, right? He pounds them into the ground, and they can just feel their bones rattling when this kid hits them. Strong hands. He's capable of jolting an offensive lineman backwards and rocking them back. So he has that type of power in his hands as well. So if you want to go ahead and play some of the tape there, for me, he just lacks the lateral agility to make plays up and down the line of scrimmage, right? Stiff hips, short stepper, not a guy that's going to be giving you much in terms of pursuit.
Here's some of the a bad thing that you sent me.
So pad levels get really high. So let's take a look at here. For a run stuffer, I expect you to hold your ground, not get moved by one blocker there. And you see him getting turned and reversed 4 or 5 yards down the field. So I'm bringing you in here. He's not giving you much, if anything, as a pass rusher. So I expect him to go ahead and occupy blockers, maintain his ground, and let the running backs or linebackers get to the running back. Here, he's getting pushed off the ball 5-6 yards by a single blocker. And that to me is concerning, right? And this is San Diego State. This is not the Green Bay Packers. This is not, the Detroit Lions with their offensive line. So that right there is very concerning for me in terms of as a run defender. Those are one of the bad plays I saw a lot of them as well.
Here's another one, Danny. And these are actually two that I butted together.
So here, this is, let's see, take a look here. All right. Once again here, taking on a double team really has no effort in terms of being able to give any sort of resistance. So they get offensive line gets into his chest, right? The other one, the guard comes down and kind of trying to washes him out there, and he has no way of recovering here. He's basically stuck there. No way of getting out and being a force on the run as a run defender. There's another one here where he gets turned in, loses the ball. He thinks the running back has the football, but it's actually the quarterback has kept the ball. So turned around, doesn't know where the ball is at. That to me is, if a defensive lineman cannot locate quickly post snap, that's an issue. So those are some things that really concern me on his tape. This one here, let's see what the one is here. This is where he gets turned around. It gets washed upfield 6-7 yards. And if he's going to be a run stuffing defensive lineman, I can't see that against San Diego State. I got to see him maintain his ground, play with leverage, uses his brute strength to go ahead and be able to stack and shed at the point of contact, and not give the running back a lane to run through as he's been moved out and washed out of the play. So, those are the things that concern me about him. When I first started watching him early on in this process, I watched him against Navy, and they were doing the same thing to him. So it's not like it's just one bad game, possibly. This is 2 tapes of him, Navy and San Diego State, where I see the same thing happening. I see him getting bullied off the line of scrimmage and moved off by single blockers at times. Right here, the running back runs right by him, and he's not even able to make him, you deter him, slow him down, or anything. He's got shorter arms. He's got 31-inch arms, so that could be an issue there as well. Doesn't show the flexibility to go ahead and come off of that block and be able to, go down and get the running back and stop him. He runs right by him up the field for a big gainer there. So all these things for a run stuffing defensive lineman really concern me to see on tape.
Somebody asked if perhaps he was drafted because Desai might think that he's a good fit for the scheme that Desai is going to run.
If we're going to go ahead and base Desai's scheme, obviously we haven't seen him call plays yet, but if we're going to base it off of what Vic Fangio ran, Vic Fangio likes, guys obviously that are strong up front in terms of run blockers, but also guys that can get up if when asked to hit a gap and get upfield. Tonga doesn't give you any of that. All right, for his career, I think he only has 7.5 sacks for his entire career. He's not a guy that's going to give you much, if anything, in terms of the pass rush. There are times where you do see him utilizing his brute strength and going ahead and getting the offensive lineman on his heels by just bull rushing him back into the quarterback. And that sometimes he can do that. But in terms of getting upfield and hitting a gap, and I just don't see that with Tonga. I don't see anything on his tape that tells me he can do that.
Dane Brugler, in his draft guide over at The Athletic that he calls The Beast, had Tonga as a 6th rounder. He noted some of the weaknesses just like you did, that he's a short-armed lineman who plays too upright at post-snap. And then in his overall summary, he says, overall, Tonga will face limitations on third down in the NFL, but he is powerful with his hands and creates congestion at the line of scrimmage. He projects as a rotational nose prospect. And I know that Greg Gabriel was a bit high on him, saying that he's immediately going to be Eddie Goldman's backup. So it's going to be a good debate between you and Niel Stopczynski, who's higher on Tonga than you are.
Right. And that's the thing is like, and if he becomes a 2-down run stuffer, fine. I mean, that's something that in the 7th round, that's not bad. That's a hit for me. But again, this is a guy that's going to have to work on and get his technique ready. And, you know, for that guy of that size, I expect to see a better effort as a run defender. Now, there are some plays on tape where he does stack and shed at the line of scrimmage and he does make plays, but it's not consistent enough for me. It's not someone that I want to see, that size and that strength. I want to see him being more consistent, being able to do that on a consistent basis. You know, there are going to be plays here and there that they, you know, he might get out leveraged or whatnot. The other thing is he gets his high head level high up, loses his leverage, loses his core strength, and gets bullied back a lot. So that's something they could probably work on as well. Utilizing his hands, again, shorter arms, but he does have a strong punch. So if he knocks the offensive lineman in his chest, he typically has that's an effect on the offensive lineman, kind of rocks him back a little bit, and then he could utilize that strength to go ahead and rock him back and bully him back into the backfield if he's going to be a bull rusher. But just the consistency wasn't there. Again, for that size, against that level of competition, I expected him to be more of a presence. So we'll see how he develops. But you know, for me, like for example, Marvin Wilson from Florida State was still available. I know he went undrafted. Cleveland signed him to a huge $162,000 guaranteed signing bonus just to get him come into the Browns there. He's a guy, he has some inconsistencies over this career at Florida State, but he's a 6'3", 319, a guy that showed some of that same stout at the line of scrimmage ability, but also showed the ability to get upfield a little bit and maybe generate a pass rush here and there. So he would have been a guy I would have taken a flyer on in the 7th round. Again, he did go undrafted, so I'm not sure there's anything off the field or anything medically associated in terms of why he was undrafted. So you got to kind of let that go out there, but. He's a guy that I had ranked higher on my board than Tonga, and a guy that I think Wilson, that is, would have been a nicer fit in this system, in this scheme, based off their playing traits and their athletic ability. Again, with Desai, I'm assuming I'm going to see the same kind of effort up front and the same kind of schematic things asked of these defensive linemen up front as I saw with Vic Fangio. And while Fangio wanted that run defense to be two gapping at times, he also allowed guys like Hicks and Eddie Goldman, Bilal Nichols, to hit upfield, hit a gap, get upfield, and cause some havoc on passing downs. And I just don't see Tonga giving you that.
Here's some good tape. You sent me 2 or 3 good clips of Tonga. Here's the first one.
I think this is the one where he rocks the center backwards. And I think walks him back, if I'm not mistaken. Let's take a look and see here if you're going to play it. Oh, this is the one where he stacks them. You see, he stacks them 2 gaps, sheds them, and then gets a running back. That's what I expect from him on a consistent basis, because he's going to be a 2-gapping defensive lineman. 2-gapping basically means, if you guys who are not familiar with the term, you press the offensive lineman and you play either gap. You take a look on the left and the right, and you see which way the running back's going. Then you stack and you shed the blocker and you go get the running back. There was a perfect example of him stacking the blocker, looking to see which gap he's coming from, the running back, and then going after and making a tackle. That's what I'm expected to see with Tonga on a consistent basis. And here it is again, right here. Stacks them, finds them, sheds them, and go and makes the tackle. That's what I want to see. Here's
another positive clip.
This might be the one where he gets into the center's chest off the this is one. Okay, this is where he gets skinny in between 2 blockers and then gets himself free and comes in and secures a tackle for loss. So again, turns himself sideways. This is what I call getting skinny, if you will. It's hard for a 325-pound guy to get skinny, but he gets skinny there in between the 2 guys and gets in back there and drops the guy for a tackle for loss. So, those are some positives where he uses his hands, gets the leverage, and gets in between those blockers, and then can be effective as a run blocker, a run defender, and getting a guy down for a tackle for loss.
Here's that clip that you were referring to earlier. It's good to get off there.
Get up, shoots his hands, has the center on his heels right away because of that strong punch, and now he's walking the guy backwards into the quarterback. Quarterback has to hurry up his delivery and get rid of the football. Once again, flies out of his stance, punches the center, has him on his heels, and he gets right into the quarterback. So
Right.
Ryan talked about him being able to, bat some balls down at the line of scrimmage, and that's where he wins, when he does stuff like that. When he gets off the snap, gets into the blocker's chest and walks him back using that brute power and strength, and then gets his hands up in the air and bats and tips balls at the line of scrimmage.
Mm-hmm. Chubbs, we know it's a 7th round pick. We're providing analysis here, the good, the bad, and what we don't know, we're sharing. Let's not get so sensitive that we're bringing out the negatives on these guys. Trust me, in the draft room, the scouts for the Chicago Bears noted all of these deficiencies in Tonga's game, and plus, but their feeling is that they can work with these guys, that they can coach them up. And so it's all about projection. And Danny's not saying that this guy's going to be a terrible player in the NFL. We don't know that. But right now, it seems like there's a number of things that he needs to work on. Right, Danny?
Right. And I just, for me, overall, I think it's a scheme fit. I just didn't see it with Tonga. I wanted to see guys that are more, obviously stout, which is fine, but I want to see guys also with the ability to get upfield as well. And he doesn't give you that much as well. Like Marvin Wilson, again, I'm not sure what's going on with him off the field, why he went undrafted, but he gives you some of that off of his tape. He wasn't consistent as well throughout his career, but again, we're talking about a 7th round pick with some athletic ability, some upfield quickness, some get off, and also a guy that could stack and shot at the point of attack. That's Wilson, that is. So I think him, for me, would have been a better value, and a guy that could probably bring in and give you more of a realistic shot of making the roster. I just don't see a guy like Tonga making this team. I'm not sure. I could be totally wrong, of course, but I just don't see him as a nice fit on this system, in this scheme, I should say.
Right. All right. Now, regarding undrafted free agents, we're going to get into detail on those undrafted free agents on Thursday's show. But there is one guy that we're going to talk about because Danny was really high on him, and Superman 800 was asking about him. What about the linebacker we picked up, the undrafted kid, Snowden? Charles Snowden was his first name.
I'm really happy with this pick. I was shocked that he went undrafted, to be honest with you. Now, he did break his ankle towards the end of the season, and so he wasn't able to go through the whole draft process in terms of running or making anything and testing and all that stuff. So he wasn't able to show off his athletic ability. So that may have been something that could have caused him to drop. He may have been, some team may consider him a tweener because he's 6'6", 243 pounds. He played outside linebacker. He could be an edge guy. Rush off the edge. So there are some teams that might have questions about him, but to be honest with you, I was shocked this kid went undrafted. The fact that they signed him as an undrafted free agent, I think this guy has a chance to be a really nice find for Ryan Pace and the Bears here. First of all, this kid, like I talked about, 6'6", 243, 35+ inch arm length, and you want those in your pass rushers. 21 bench press at his pro day. Obviously couldn't test because of that ankle surgery. This kid in high school was a linebacker and a receiver. Also, basketball was his primary love. So he's a basketball player. Actually wanted to go to college on a basketball scholarship, but ended up football being his way to college there. 2018 led the FBS in passes defense with 11. Last year, team captain, was a second team All ACC, led the team in tackles for loss with 10. Again, put on his tape. The first thing you see is size. Very good size, tremendous arm length, solid movement skills. He moves like a basketball player out there on the football field. Can flow laterally. Also has that plant and drive ability on the football. Long strider, helps him make up ground in a hurry. Plays on his feet with good balance, considering the fact that he's such a long-limbed athlete. Consistently productive against the run, and he shows his ability to go ahead and slip blocks, get skinny, and pierce through the backfield using his long arms and athletic ability to go ahead and corral ball carries. He had 30.5 tackles for loss, guys, at Virginia. So this is a guy that gets back into the backfield and makes his presence felt. Shows the ability and willingness to come up and set a hard edge and funnel the play back inside. Uses his length to go ahead and press, stack, and shut tight ends at the point of attack and get to the ball carrier. So some of the stuff we were talking about with Tonga, being able to press, stack, and shed. Now he's doing it against tight ends as opposed to guards and centers, but still he shows that ability that you like seeing here on the outside edge guys. quick to trigger out of his drop, back to fire downhill, come up and tackle a running back in the flat. Will pursue all over the field and is solid as an in-space tackler, a guy that can come together himself, get himself in control and be able to tackle in the open field. Pass rush, he's still working on it as a pass rusher, but he's got a solid first step quickness to get on the outside shoulder of the offensive tackle, displays the bend to be able to dip his shoulders underneath the tackle and flatten to the quarterback. So he's got pass rush potential, which is probably why they have him listed as an edge guy. And special teams, this is another guy that's probably going to make the team as a special teams guy. He's got a block punt and a block kick in his career at Virginia. We talked about his length. He's 6'6", has 35 plus inch arm length. So this is a guy definitely is going to probably be able to provide some sort of presence on special teams as well. Some of the things that worry me in terms of projecting the next level, obviously the slim frame. You saw some of his highlights there. He's a real skinny kid. Needs to add bulk, needs to get skinny, especially to be able to better compete at the point of attack. Can get stuck on blocks a little bit. Downfield, you see him kind of get stuck on receiver blocks or offensive linemen that actually come out to the second level. He's got to be able to get consistent in terms of shedding and getting rid of those blockers or slipping those blocks and getting to the ball carrier. And in terms of, again, as pass rusher, he's still learning. You can see he hasn't developed yet as a pass rusher. He has no repertoire. He's got no game plan out there in terms of a counter move, using his hands to be able to, leverage and beat offensive linemen. Right now, he's just winning with his first step quickness, his athletic ability, and his length. So this is a guy that definitely can get much better in that area. So again, the outside linebackers coach here, you have yourself an athlete with this height, with this length, with this quickness, and the athletic ability. Go ahead now, make him a defined edge rusher. And this is I'm telling you, this guy is a nice find for the Bears. Assuming that right ankle heals nicely and everything's clean by training camp, I expect him to be on the team as a special teams contributor and one of the edge guys, the outside linebacker.
Yeah, this is, in my mind, this could be one of the biggest undrafted free agent acquisitions that we have had in a long time here. I mean, I can also always get into hyperbole. Sometimes I tend to do that, so I'm going to pump the brakes. But there's a lot to love about this guy. When I was looking through Dane Brugler's list of linebackers from The Athletic, he had him, and I noticed Snowden a couple of weeks ago because of his size, because he is that 6'6.5" type size, almost 6'7". He reminded me a lot of Leonard Floyd. And how about it? We get a Leonard Floyd type of player as an undrafted free agent. Just a couple of the things that Brugler wrote about him in terms of strengths: fluid athlete with a basketball background, long-limbed with proper knee bend to take on edge blocks, tracks the football and disengages. Overall, Snowden comes with position and scheme fit questions, but his fluid athleticism, long-limbed frame and reaction skills are an intriguing combination. He projects best as a hybrid edge player in a 3-4 scheme. Got to be, and to have him 15, the 15th best as an edge player, and have him listed as a third-round prospect is encouraging.
Yeah, if the Bears end up using a draft pick, whether it's 6th or 7th round pick on this kid, I would have been happy with it as well. The fact to get him as an undrafted free agent, I think that's a bonus. That's a plus. And again, like he was probably out on a lot of 4-3 team defenses because they're probably going to play him an outside linebacker as a strong will linebacker. And again, a guy that size, they're a bit of a tweener for them. So I can see why those 4-3 teams would not really be that interested in. But 3-4 teams, guys like the Bears that run that kind of scheme with these outside edge guys. Yeah, he's not a finished product as a pass rusher. We've touched on that already, but he shows some intriguing. I tweeted out some clips of him being able to that first step quickness to be able to get on the outside shoulder of the offensive tackle, to be able to dip his shoulders inside and underneath the tackle and get flattened to the quarterback. That's stuff that you can work with. His ability to again come up and use that first step quickness to beat the outside shoulder of the tackle is another thing you can work with as well. Now he's got to develop a pass rush repertoire. He's got to develop a plan in terms of, if someone gets him, stops him in his tracks in terms of getting the tackle gets to a set spot and cuts off his angle, he's got to have to come up with a counter move to be able to beat that tackle. So, that's what I'm talking about in terms of a pass rush plan, work on his repertoire. I don't see any towards repertoire. I don't see any swim moves, swipes, rips, or anything like that. So he's got to get developed there as well. So a lot to work with, but a lot to get excited about as well. And then especially if you give him, he puts you that ability on special teams to be able to be a gunner, or not a gunner, but a guy that can come in and block punts, block kicks, that kind of potential with that length and that speed and ability. I'm telling you, for undrafted free agent, that's a hell of a find, I think.
Yeah. All right, let's tackle some of the questions that I've been collecting. I always do a terrible job of that. But T-Dub, about a half hour ago when we were talking about offensive linemen, he says, how do you see this offensive lineman shaking out? So you put on your prognosticator hat and tell us who is going to be starting on the offensive line, starting at right tackle, going through guard, center guard, and left tackle. What do you
okay. So obviously, I think start off with the middle. I think Sam Mustipher is going to be the center, and I think they're going to bring back keep Whitehair a left guard, and I think they're going to probably bring James Daniels in a right guard initially, and have him and Alex Bars compete for that position. I think left tackle is going to be Leno, unless Jenkins can prove they can play left tackle, or somebody else can come in and prove he can play left tackle. I know Elijah Wilkerson, the guy they got from the free agent from the Broncos, has played right and left tackle, but I think he's been predominantly on the right side. So I'm not sure if that's going to be competition for Leno or not. At right tackle, again, we got Affetti there, right? We got Wilkerson there, and we got Jenkins there. That's where I see the primary three competing to start there. So if it's obviously you prefer Jenkins to come in as a highly picked second round pick, come in and just take control and take over that spot and put Affetti to the bench or have him get cut or whatnot. But I think until we know what Juan Castillo can do with Jenkins, can he shore up his technique and can he get him be a solid right tackle? I think you have to assume right now it's going to be Affetti, unless proven otherwise through training camp, through OTAs, through the preseason games and all that stuff. But for me right now, if I had to pick, I'd say Affetti right now, but Jenkins probably won't be that far behind in terms of challenging him for that right tackle spot.
Alex Sims, my man Alex, asks, what is your assessment of the current wide receiver room?
So obviously Mooney and Robinson are the starters. Adding a guy like Daz Newsome, I think he's going to be a productive guy from day one. Maybe he's going to be a 4th or 5th receiver. I'm not sure. We've talked about it on the last show. I'm a big Anthony Miller fan, guys. I pounded the table for this kid when they drafted him. I know he's had his rough spots here, but I see talent, right? I see him with the ball in his hands as a guy that can make things happen. And I don't know what it is, or whether it's been the coaching staff, or whether it's been his non being able to connect with the quarterbacks. Hopefully with a quarterback like Dalton or probably Justin Fields, he has a better chance, but this is his final chance. Literally, this is his final chance. This is the last year of his contract. You come in and he's got to, from day one, he's got to prove that he's worthy of having this a shot on this roster. So there's also a lot of veterans going to be released here after this June 1st, a lot of June 1st post cuts, see who gets cut loose there. If there's a guy that could probably bring in as a veteran that could probably compete for a roster spot, I keep an eye on that as well. I know they brought in Marquise Goodwin. For me, he's just a Ted Ginn of this year, for example. I don't expect him to make the team, but we'll see what happens there as well. So for me, right now, the obvious locks are Mooney, Robinson. I still have Anthony Miller as a lock, and obviously Daz Newsome. And we'll see what happens with the 5th or 6th receiver position.
The Factor One asked about Tariq Cohen, that he's heard speculation or a rumor that Tariq Cohen could be used almost primarily as a wide receiver, given the depth that the team has at that running back position now. Do you think that Tariq could be effective if he's getting 90% of his snaps out in the wide receiver slot position?
I like his receiving skills better than I do his running skills, to be honest with you. I've said it before. I think he's a hell of a receiver. If you line him up in a slot or just use him as in one of these roles I talked about, getting the ball, and these quick hitters, he could be effective, very effective in that role, as opposed to just handing the ball off to him and let him just go and try and be a running back. So yeah, he'll get some runs here and there where he runs off a 10, 20-yard run. but his vision, his feel for blocking, to cut off of blockers is just not there for Tariq Cohen. But he's a hell of an athlete. He's a hell of a pass catcher. And if you utilize him in a role where you just get the ball to him in an open field as a slot receiver or whatnot, I definitely would like to see that happen as well.
Let me tackle this question here from D. Levine. Have you guys forgot that the Bears made a push for Trent Williams? This tells me that they see Leno as a liability and that they have drafted Jenkins to be a left tackle. So more of the left tackle talk. No, first of all, we haven't forgotten that there were rumors that they were after Trent Williams, which I never bought for a second. This guy was going to be among, if not the highest paid left tackle in the National Football League, and the Bears can't even pay their draft players. That was all bullshit speculation that was going on, in my opinion. But you're right. I'm not saying, and Danny's not saying, that anyone is satisfied with Charles Leno at the left tackle position and we wouldn't want an upgrade. Right. And somebody else in the chat room said, that there's rumor going around that Charles Leno could be a post June 1st cut. And that is possible. Again, the Bears are going to have to get a really strong feeling that they've got somebody who is going to be better. And if it's Tevin Jenkins and they feel 100% positive that he's going to be better than Leno, then that makes sense. Then make the switch. But I have my doubts that even Charles Leno is going to get beat out by Tevin Jenkins. And then the final point on all of this is, who is it that said this? I think it was Zach Sullivan said, bring in Charles Leno to camp and let's see if all of this stuff is putting a fire under his ass. And that is great because we know there's a history of players playing their asses off when they're playing for a contract. And he's playing for his last contract. He's newly married, has a young kid. He knows that these paychecks aren't always going to be this high for the rest of his life. So maybe he's right now, eating raw meat and gunpowder, and he's going to come out at camp and say, you think Tevin Jenkins is a mean motherfucker? Look at me. He could be. So hopefully all of this is lighting a fire up under his ass.
And that's why I keep saying, like, maybe that's why, Pace and Nagy keep mentioning Jenkins as a possibility as left tackle, maybe just so they can tell, hey, Charles, we've got a guy here that can challenge you for your spot. You better be coming ready to play. But everyone I've talked to in the NFL community does not see Jenkins as a left tackle prospect, right? And my review doesn't see him as left tackle prospect. Could we be wrong? Sure, that could be a possibility, but I'd be highly surprised if Tevin Jenkins is your starting left tackle week 1 of the NFL season. So I think, again, we're not saying Charles Leno is irreplaceable. We're not saying he's a guy that's an all-pro left tackle. We're just saying that he's a guy that for now doesn't have someone that could challenge him as of right now on was it May 2nd, that could challenge him for a starting spot. Could that change come week 1 or their training camp? Certainly, no doubt about it. Is he someone that needs to be challenged for a starting position? No doubt about it. He's got to get better. I think last year, although you're right, last year was not as bad as his previous year. He does still have some whiffs. He still has some plays where he looked horrible. But I think overall he's an average to slightly below average left tackle in the NFL. I think he could do worse than Charles Leno, to be honest with you, at left tackle. So is he the ideal guy? No, but he's also a 7th round pick that's done good so far, right? So I think until someone else comes out and beats him for it, and maybe it'll be Jenkins, maybe I'll be proven wrong, and it is going to be Jenkins. We'll see. Right now he's just starting left tackle.
Right. All right. The most important part of the press conference that Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace had Saturday after the day 3 draft was over, the most important question was asked at the very end of the press conference. We have time for one more Hub-arkish. Hub asked this great question. I'm not sure, and I included it in the soundbite, so let me play it. If not, I'll interrupt myself and interrupt the soundbite and set it up better.
There's some things that, Joey and I know that we need to do as we look at our cap and our situation, and, we have plans in place for that. And those are kind of the next steps, before we're able to kind of take a deep breath.
Okay, I'm not asking for names, but will you continue to look at street vets as well?
Of course. Yeah. There's guys on our board right now, Hub, that we're still looking at. So to answer your question, yes. And then there's guys still that we have targeted with other teams that could be potential cuts are potential trades that we're watching closely.
So I think that is huge. Hub Arkish set up the question first and said, hey, you guys don't have enough money to sign these guys. And then he went, I cut the response down because Ryan went on and on about Joey. He's worked with him for 20 years. He's the best in the business and blah, blah, blah. And every time we're talking player acquisition, he's sitting right next to me and he's giving me advice and telling me whether we can afford it or not and so forth. And then Hub with not only that good question, but the follow-up question, are you still looking at street veterans? And the answer is yes. So expect there to be some money freed up, whether it's extending Akeem Hicks's contract to create some money, cutting Hicks, cutting Leno, whatever it is, there's going to be some money freed up. And then these street free agents, some of them who are already out there, some of them who will be out there June 1st, are going to be potential targets for the Chicago Bears. And he also mentioned trades. So there's trade possibilities. So just like, and I'm not saying that there's going to be a Khalil Mack move during the rest of the offseason, but just like they prepared for the Khalil Mack trade because they knew that there was a discord between Mack and the Raiders, they prepared for that. For months before that trade actually happened, they had it on their board. They had it in their thinking. So something substantial can still happen with player acquisition, and that to me is encouraging.
Yeah, that's why when the receiver question was brought up, I mentioned that there's going to be some guys that are going to come free post June 1st, receiver-wise, that you could probably bring in here and have them compete for a roster spot. So that's another area to keep an eye on. I fully expect Nick Foles to be gone one way or another, whether it's a post June 1st designation to get that money off his contract or whether it's a trade. We talked about maybe Tariq Cohen. We'll see how that goes. Maybe negotiating a long-term contract with Allen Robinson and dropping his salary for this season could be something as well that could free up some cap space.
All right, boy, chat room is on fire, man. We could stay here all night, but I can't stay here tonight. This has been a lot of fun, and we need to do this more often. Bears fans just want to talk. They want to vent. They want to pick apart our thoughts and agree with us, disagree with us, debate us. So we'll talk to the guy who's in charge of football programming here at the Barroom Network and see, hey, can we have a show? Can Danny and I just talk at night and see what he says? But just kidding. What we can guarantee is that on Tuesday, Dan and Aldo bare their souls. We will be back, and Dan's got lots of thoughts to share, not only about the Chicago Bears, but he's seen a couple of movies that he wants to discuss. So we'll be doing that on Tuesday. We're normally on Monday, but we're pushing back to Tuesday because he's got an obligation. We've got a new show that is debuting Monday after South Burbs Hitmen, the Sox show, and it is about the Cubs, Danny's not favorite team. It'll make Neil happy, but Danny not so happy. But if you know what we've been doing here at the Barroom, we've got a really good relationship with the Friendly Confines podcast. Well, they're bringing a version of that show to video. They're calling it Friendly Confines Extra Innings. It'll be about a half hour long, highlights of what they've done on their podcast. And if you're a Cubs fan, give it a try. It'll be on after South Burbs Hitman tomorrow. So the South Burbs Hitman and Friendly Confines tomorrow. On Tuesday, it's Dan Aguirre and myself. On Wednesday, we've got something going on Wednesday, and I forgot what it is. Doesn't matter. Oh, but potentially a Pass the Mike show with John Buffon and Alyssa Barbieri. And then on Thursday, besides that, of course, the Mike North Advantage on Wednesday morning and Bar Down, the Hockey Talk Wednesday afternoon. And then on Thursday, Danny, Neil, and I return to talk more football. And I got a feeling that's going to be like a 3-hour affair, Danny.
Probably. It's going to be us saying goodbye to each other.
That's right. We'll start crying. So make sure you don't have anything important going on Friday morning, all right?
I look forward to it. Yep.
Yeah. Hugh Evans, thank you for the compliment. We've been getting all sorts of great compliments, and Neil and Danny have become stars of Bears Draft Analysis. Congratulations to you. You guys deserve it because you've put the work in. You've put great thought in. I mean, this isn't you guys just looking at highlights. This is you guys looking and studying a tape and going over and over. Your kid is asking you, Dad, why are you keep playing the same play over and over again?
Yeah, that's funny. That's one aspect is like you keep watching the same play over and over again. Why? And I have to break it down for him. But yeah, I mean, also for Thursday, I'm going to do another deep dive into some of the other undrafted free agents and try and see how much film again those guys. Maybe give you some more details in terms of what I see for those guys as well. I know Vogel from the offensive lineman from Northwestern is a guy a lot of people are interested in, local guy here. So we'll see if we can get some more information on that guy as well.
Mm-hmm. Lots of great stuff to talk about, man. Football is a 12-month-a-year sport, and we'll be here at the Barroom Network covering it better than we ever have in the past. So here we go. Our final goodbyes. Anyone special you want to do a shout out to, brother?
No, all the fans, man, all our listeners, all the guys participating in the chat, guys and gals that participate in the chat. Truly appreciate you guys. Keeping us on our toes and asking good questions. And yeah, we're like Aldo said, we're not always going to agree in terms of what we see, what we don't see, but this is a great place to be able to talk it out and just say, hey, this is my point of view. This is what I'm seeing. This is what you guys are seeing. And we'll see who ends up being right at the end. But all along is just basically just trying to give you guys as much, info on these prospects as we can. Neil and I just, do a lot of deep dive and film and take some time to, evaluate and whatever context we can get a hold of, get some more information for them, just to give you guys some more background information as well. So we love doing it. We love bringing it to you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoy it and continue coming and continue supporting us. We do appreciate all the support we get.
That's right. For Danny Shimon, Niel Stopczynski, I'm Aldo Gandia. We'll see you on Thursday.
Good night.